On behalf of Petroleum Planning Analysis Cell, I extend a very warm welcome to all the dignitaries, delegates and participants present here at the India Energy Week 2026. Since we'll be releasing two important journals today, one will be the release of the IEA India Bioenergy Market Report titled Outlook for Liquid and Gaseous Biofuels to 2030. I request the dignitaries on the stage. May I request Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Dr. Neeraj Mittalji, to kindly release the report along with the other guests. I also invite the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Mr. Khanuja ji. I also request Dr. Paulo Frankel, Head of the Renewable Energy. We also request dignitaries to release the 5th edition of the PPAC journal titled Ensuring Energy Security, Role of Energy Policies of States. May I now request the Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Dr. Neeraj Mittalji, to kindly deliver the keynote address and share his perspectives on bioenergy. Please, sir.
DGPPAC on the dais, Additional Secretary Mr. Khanuja, Dr. Paolo Frankel, Ms. Charlotte Morton from the IEA and World Biogas Association, and friends who are gathered here on this occasion of release of the IEA India Bioenergy Market Report and the 5th edition of PPAC Journal. I congratulate the agencies responsible, including PPAC, who has put in hard work to look into the future and come out with this report on bioenergy. Bioenergy is something which we all know is critical for our futures, for our security, for creating jobs, for lowering emissions, and aligning with national goals. We know that India energy consumption is in the lower half of the world rankings per capita, but its growth rate is almost twice the world average, which means that in the next decade or so, India's energy growth rates will outstrip the international growth rate of energy by a factor of maybe 2 or more. Honorable Prime Minister has set the targets for India, voluntary targets which we have achieved ahead of our NDC commitments. We are moving ahead in showing that we can achieve the goals we set for ourselves. So, for example, in 2014, we had 1.4% ethanol blending. Today, we are close to 20%. Not only that, we have enough domestic ethanol to go beyond 20% if technologies and national vision takes us there. Similarly, we have set targets for biodiesel blending, CBG, sustainable aviation fuel, all up to 5% by around 29-30. It is responsible that this generation, as it hands the earth to the future generations, does its work of using energy in a responsible manner, in a carbon neutral manner. At the same time, we need to take steps for reducing carbon in the atmosphere while ensuring that countries such as India, who aim to become developed by 2047, are not hampered by such altruistic goals which we have set for ourselves. Other countries which became developed when such constraints were not imposed upon them, India stands as a bright spot by having imposed these national targets on ourselves for the benefit of the world. And therefore, this report, I hope, will give us clear policy directions, feedback, discussions, ideas, solutions, approaches, collaboration with other nations as we go along. So my thanks to the team who has prepared this report, and I look forward to a better world as we move on this transition. Thank you so much.
So may I request Mr. P. Manoj Kumar to kindly come, DG PPSC.
Respected Secretary MOPNG Dr. Neeraj Mittalji, Additional Secretary Sri Praveen Kanuja Dr. Polo, Ms. Morton, industry colleagues from PPSC and friends. It's a great honor for me welcoming each one of you for this prestigious program, which we just got it released, two documents, one from IEA in collaboration with PPSC, the bioenergy, which is a very critical subject of late. Government has taken over a very high priority area. Secondly, PPSC has of late last 2 years have been releasing biannually journal. This is the 5th edition, and this constitute the state level energies, which we thought that this should be a compendium for energy policies which are being implemented by various states. Just to remind you that PPSC in collaboration with IEA had released India Oil Outlook in 2013 IEW 24 in Goa, and India Gas Report Outlook 2013 IEW 24 at Delhi. So this is a continuation of our agreement with IEA. For last 3 years, 3 years back, we had signed the statement of intent with IEA, and we have taken up so much of activities, including these type of reports for the government of India and also for the industry. This is the third report, Outlook report we are releasing, which we have released just now. We are confident that the bioenergy report of IEA, which just released today, will be very useful for our stakeholders and policymakers. While India has shown significant progress in biofuel, particularly on ethanol, I would request Dr. Paulo Franklin, who is going to make a presentation, to specifically touch upon the best practices from various economies from where India can draw inspiration, and also throw light on what can accelerate India's foray into bioenergy in much bigger way. I'm so happy to take this opportunity to, which we have released 5th edition of PPSC Technical Journal. And I am also glad to inform you that last 2 years, the journal is getting excellent recognition from various premier institutions, including IITs, that the children are referring our technical journal. In view of increasing role of states in energy sector, the theme this time is ensuring energy security, role of energy policies of the state. This has 24 articles from states, policymakers and think tanks. I also take this opportunity to announce the theme of the next issue, which is going to be released in August Independence Day release, Reimagining Mobility, Future Transportation Fuel for Vikasit Bharat 2047. This is the theme for the next journal. So I would request all the industry colleagues to contribute on that journal also. I am also glad to inform you that we are inching towards the 25th year of PPSC's existence and successful journey for last more than 2 decades. we have a dedicated pavilion at hall number 1A in IEW. So I would request all of you to visit our pavilion and also motivate us, because this is the first time we are bringing up such pavilion. I am thankful to OIL for that sponsoring that pavilion. And it's our commitment. I reaffirm its commitment to remain single source truth for oil and gas and expected to expand to energy data in coming years. So with your support and commitment of PPSC, we feel that we'll go beyond oil and gas maybe in the years to come. And thanking once again all of you for your gracious presence. Thank you so much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Paolo Frankel. I'm the head of Renewable Energy Division at the IEA. I wish to thank, first of all, MOPNG, Secretary Mittal, Additional Secretary Kanuja, and then Director General of PPAC, Kumar. It's a great honor for me to launch this special report on India Bioenergy, which is the third of the series, as you just mentioned. And I would really like to give an enormous thanks to PPAC colleagues for the great support, collaboration, a lot of data, correcting our data. We really profit from this collaboration. Now, in the next 10 minutes or so, I would like to give you overview of the main results and the main conclusions. But let me start why we did this. It was mentioned by Secretary Mittal. Because bioenergy, and most specifically here, the gaseous and liquid biofuels, can bring multiple benefits to every country, but in particular to oil importing countries. In terms of energy diversification, security, reduction of fossil fuel imports and volatility of the prices, that's one. Second, creating new economic development, in particular in rural areas. And the third is emission reductions. So India has recognized this and has made already a lot of progress. And what the report is about is the very positive outlook. But let me start with the past. So it has been mentioned a couple of times, the ethanol story. But it's interesting to look in general the sum of the gaseous and liquid fuels. And if you compare with 2018 or 2020, if you wish, it's a stunning tripling of the liquid and gaseous biofuels in India. Ethanol alone is a fivefold increase in this period, and it is the result of a very interesting suite of policies, not just one, not just the targets. It's a combination of strong blending mandates, public funding for research, good development and demonstration projects, and support for supply chain development. And this is how India very rapidly, it's one of the biggest success stories in the energy, in policy-driven policies, has achieved the 20% mandate. And now it's a very, very interesting start on CBG. So let's look at our forecast. And I have to say that immediately that in the IEA, in our market report, we have two cases in our forecast. One is called the main case, which is based on today's policies. And the second is called an accelerated case, where we looked at full implementation of stated policies and enhanced policies and how this can develop further deployment in a time horizon of 5 years. So in the case of ethanol, we see a massive increase of ethanol demand by 2030, which is simply because of maintaining the 20%. Maybe India will go beyond the 20%, in particular if there is progress on flex fuel vehicles. We think this is possible. And with increasing demand of fuel, the absolute amount will reach something around 15 billion or even more, 16 billion of liter per year. Now, on biodiesel, we think there is a bit of work still to be done. India can do it, but has to recreate the same positive ecosystem of the ethanol story. This requires to have the blending rates of the 5% can be achieved in 2030, but it requires that producers have sufficient access to feedstock by improving collection of processes, increasing the supply of oil crops grown by farmers, development of other supportive feedstock supply-oriented policies as done for ethanol, and also a twofold increase from current production capacity. We think all this is possible, but it requires the same policy attention that India has had on the ethanol story, and in this case, this can be reached. Now, we had yesterday an interesting panel roundtable on SAF. India is moving fast also on SAF. We think that there are a number of ways how India can make great progress on SAF, which is a combination of co-processing, and several oil market companies have already been starting this. But it's also in addition to look seriously at the alcohol to jet route, which has already started with one project. And indeed, in our accelerated case, once again, India reaches the blending target at itself. And it is, in addition to sufficient access to feedstock for biojet producers, it has a greater deployment of both existing commercial, HEFA, and emerging biojet fuel pathways, ATJ. So in this forecast, we see biojet forecast to reach more than 700 million liters per year of SAF, which would put India in a very interesting place in the world commerce of SAF. Now, the other very interesting story is compressed biogas, which is just starting, but which has phenomenal growth rates, and Secretary Mittal mentioned the importance of growth rate. So production has already started to scale up with around 170 operating plants in 2025 and plus 300 under constructions. And with the additional registered project pipeline plants, which is around 800, production would, in our opinion, we looked at a realistic case of the construction of the operation of this, an increase by sevenfold by 2030. That's our main forecast. And to further reach the blending mandate of 5%, we would assume a projected increase in natural gas consumption, and a crucial aspect is to increase the average utilization rate of CBG plants, which has a number of implications, but it's also crucial to contain the cost. So summarizing the whole picture, if you start with 2020, then you see that India has already tripled the production of gases and liquid fuels, and this was mainly an ethanol story. But the good thing is that going on forward, it's a much more diversified story of different fuels, different technologies, and a suite of policies. And we believe that under enhanced policies, India can double from today to 2030. And if you look at the whole span from 2020, this is an impressive factor 6 of multiplication of growth of liquid and gaseous fuels. So the positive point here is the more diversified fuel mix and this very strong increase of fuels in general. What this will require is support for feedstock supply and collection, infrastructure, innovation, and increasing production capacity. Let me say two things on biogas. Thanks to the collaboration with PPAC, we updated our geospatial analysis that we had done already before, and we come to the conclusion that India has a potential of 90 BCM equivalent potential for gases today. This is 120% of all the natural gas consumption today, which is a massive potential. And the other important point is the distance from the gas infrastructure. We observed that 25% of this potential is closer than 20 kilometers from gas transmission pipelines. This is one very important part of the story. The other part of the story that we were discussing with Charlotte before is two things. One, make sure that there is a good aggregation model to have the feedstock, which goes into an order of magnitude of 70,000 tons per day of feedstock that needs to be furnished. And the second is to create a market for offtake for the co-products, in particular for the solid co-products, FOM, of the digestate. These are the two more important points. Now, the report identifies, based on international best practice, we looked at many countries in the world, not just Europe, also United States, Brazil, others, 4 policy areas and 4 recommendations. The first is to establish a national roadmap, target, and policies, and this sounds very generic, but actually it's very important to replicate the good story of ethanol to all the fuels in a holistic way, to coordinate between national and state policies, and to have a vision for that. The other 3 are focusing on supply chains and address infrastructure. This is very important. Support innovation to narrow cost gaps. We need new technologies. I'm thinking, for instance, about SAF to narrow the cost gaps. And the last one is to develop carbon accounting and life cycle assessment sustainability frameworks, because this will give India new opportunities in international markets. And we were speaking before about including the possibility for India to export SAF in the world. Now, in the report, I don't have the time to go into detail, but just for the structure, for each of these recommendations, we looked at the challenge, we looked at the possible policy response, and then we gave some concrete examples of countries that have set a good examples. So for instance, in the roadmap part, the first recommendation, if you look at Brazil's future of the fuel law, it's an amazing example of best practice of policy. But we looked also at Malaysia or several other European policies for biogas. This is my last slide. Let me conclude. Let me retake something that Secretary Mittal said about the growth rates of energy demand in India. If we look at the period 2020 and the forecast 2030, it's an overall energy demand growth of around 40%. If we look at what biofuels are doing, it's an amazing factor 6. So 10 to 20 times faster than the total energy demand. Here you have a real sense of how sustainable bioenergy is making a dent in terms of energy security, diversification, economic opportunities. And these are really the benefits that India has realized, and which are also the same benefits that underpin the sustainable fuel pledge that was presented at COP, and which India is one of the promoter. And my last point is India's abundant crops and agricultural residues and organic waste is providing a strong resource base for modern bioenergy production. And India can actually, what you do here is such a scale that first, it changes the world numbers, and second, you can be an example for many other countries in the world. I thank you very much for your attention. I thank you again for the excellent collaboration to PPAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Frankel, for the comprehensive presentation and for sharing valuable global insights on bioenergy. May I now invite Ms. Charlotte Morton, Chief Executive, World Biogas Association, to kindly give us insights on the subject, please.
Thank you, and thank you very much. It's fantastic to be part of this panel and to launching these very timely and incredibly useful reports. As Paolo has just highlighted, biogas and compressed biogas are a critical part to India's energy security, but also the development of a sustainable circular economy. Unlike many other renewable energy sources, biogas tackles multiple issues at the same time. It turns the vast and increasing volumes of organic waste that are being generated globally, but particularly also here, agricultural residues, animal manures, our own human sewage, municipal solid waste, industrial residues. It turns them into energy, but also displaces the need for chemical fertilizers. It also reduces methane emissions, which are so important that we focus on today, supports decentralized energy systems, bolsters rural livelihoods, improves air quality and human health, and as Paolo has highlighted, decarbonizes transportation, industry, maritime, and even aviation fuels. But despite this promise, and its huge promise, India's biogas sector today remains largely fragmented. Policies are spread across multiple ministries. Implementation varies significantly across states, and access to finance remains challenging by perceived risks related to feedstock security, offtake agreements, and long-term profitability. Participants at the World Biogas Association India Congress 25, which took place in Delhi last month, repeatedly stressed that minor policy tweaks are no longer enough. What we need is a cohesive policy and regulatory framework to coordinate policy, capital, infrastructure, human skills, and markets at the scale that we've just seen is possible. So this is why one of the main outcomes of that Congress was a collective call for a national biogas mission. Such a mission could do for biogas what previous national initiatives have done for solar and green hydrogen, offer long-term policy stability, clear objectives, targeted financing, and above all, effective institutional and stakeholder coordination. A national biogas mission should be based on proven global foundations. Initiatives like the World Biogas Association flagship program, Making Biogas Happen, with its key projects, the Global Biogas Regulatory Framework and International Anaerobic Digestion Certification Scheme, which provide practical building blocks which are readily adaptable to India's own context. Learning from established biogas markets, these frameworks can help speed up deployment by improving quality, safety, and investor confidence. International collaboration alongside strong domestic leadership can greatly reduce India's learning curve. First, the mission must establish a clear national roadmap, as highlighted by the IEA, with time-bound deployment targets for biogas and biomethane across sectors, including transport, industry, and city gas distribution. Second, it should be supported by a dedicated national biogas fund to unlock blended finance through guarantees, risk-sharing instruments, and concessional capital, thereby lowering project financing costs. Third, the mission must focus on standards and market development. Robust standards and certification systems, a standardized life cycle assessment methodology, and integration with carbon markets is crucial to building credibility and helping Indian biogas compete globally. Equally important is ensuring reliable feedstock supply chains and expanding markets for digestate and fermented organic manure, which are vital for project bankability and long-term sustainability. Finally, the mission must invest in people and in institutions, building capacity at municipal and state levels, strengthening public-private partnerships, promoting indigenous technologies, and placing a strong emphasis on women's participation and green job creation will help determine whether the sector delivers inclusive growth. The World Biogas Association India Congress last month highlighted that the necessary components are already in place. India has ample feedstock, expanding gas infrastructure, strong industrial demand, and a lively entrepreneurial ecosystem. What's lacking is that unified national effort to turn this potential into global leadership. So if India is serious about becoming a global leader in clean energy, which of course it is, whilst addressing its waste and climate issues, a national biogas mission is now essential. It's the logical next step, and the time is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. To conclude today's session, may I request the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Shri Praveen Khanuja ji, to kindly deliver the closing remarks. Sir, please.
Morning, everyone. When I'd gone for my UPSC interview, the clock was just checking, it was 12 o'clock. So when it was 1 second past 12 o'clock, so it became afternoon. So first thing which I did correctly in the interviews was to say good afternoon. So I think it's good afternoon now. Okay, it's 11:57. So good morning. Miss Charlotte Morton, if I've pronounced it correctly, it's Chief Executive of World Biogas Association. Dr. Paolo Frankel, Head of Renewable Energy Division of IEA, DG PPAC, and my dear colleagues, very, very good morning. So I come back to good morning. Now, first of all, I would congratulate PPAC and IA for such a marvelous report. Now, this is third in the series of the oil market report, and then last time it was gas report. And I think during those discussions, I think maybe I had suggested for a biofuel report, and which has come out well. So congratulations to you and your team. I could see lots of names here, so you can congratulate them on my behalf and the ministry's behalf. Now, as you are all aware that India's biofuel journey has been tremendous. We have blended 20% ethanol in our petrol, gasoline, from 1.43% in 2014 to 20% now. There is an interministerial committee which I head, which is looking at beyond E20 blending, which would basically come from flex fuel engines, the E85 fuel, which we are thinking, which would be an anhydrous ethanol fuel, would be is at GST. So we expect the prices to be lower, and then that would help to the flex fuel ecosystem. And so that is the path towards that, and there could be some testing before we go for another base fuel change. For the ethanol, I'll just give you one data point. So that during last 10-11 years, we have saved about 150,000 crore, which would be about $16-17 billion in foreign exchange. We have made payments of about 125,000 crores, which would be again $13-14 billion to our farmers, and we have reduced about 750 lakh metric ton of carbon emissions. Now, the various policy interventions, which included the seamless movement of ethanol through the amendment to the IDR Act, the policy interventions for the pricing, giving support, the long-term offtake agreements, and many more, they are all in the report. So these are the policy interventions which took us from 1.5% to 20%. Now, when we come to biomethane, I was impressed to see the report which said that the similar growth is expected in biomethane, or rather CBG for us. I just wanted to tell the House here that there are many ministries which are into this. It's a very important paradigm for the states also. Yesterday we had 3 long sessions with all the stakeholders. That is the CBG producers, that is the state governments, additional chief secretary level officers, senior officers from the states, these ministries, they were all there. And then I think the next session is going to, please, you can also listen. We welcome Mr. Pankaj Jain, former secretary. Pankaj Jain sir has been in the ministry for 4 years, and we have other panelists also. So I'll just complete my few observations, sir, and my apologies for this confusion. So we had long panel discussions yesterday on and we can seek your guidance if that would be there. So, on the compressed biogas, all the stakeholders, 200 participants, and 6 presentations. So we are going to converge that today. There will be a presentation to the Honorable Minister, and we'll go forward and have this integrated mission which would take care of all the stakeholders' concerns, the producers, and have an integrated policy, and we'll also have an integrated policy which would include the observations of the state governments also. As far as SAF is concerned, we, as the Secretary Sahab, the former Secretary Sir is aware, we had co-generation of SAF at Panipat refinery, And then the target is about 4 crore liters by 2030, and we would be able to export SAF after having achieved this self-sufficiency in SAF blending by 2030. So I'll just compress here, and I have only two suggestions which I'll like to mention. One, that whenever we have this report of PPAC, I would suggest the editorial team should consist of outside experts also. I see the editorial team is only of PPAC. Maybe the ministry, maybe R&D people, so other experts could also be roped in. Maybe you can think of peer reviewing that. And the other suggestion would be to have more data for the IES report. They are very interesting. They are slightly summarized, and we have just discussed with Dr. Paolo that for the green metric, we'll go ahead and do some further analysis and do a green metric for Indian biofuel ecosystem also. So maybe more annexures for the IEA report. With that, I congratulate PPAC and IEA once again and all the participants here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.